There we go.
Hell yeah. What's going on, bro?
How we doing, man?
Good. Wait just a minute. Let maybe a couple more people pop in um Noob,
Very
how we
cool.
look? You got a recording going? We're live on recording. Cool.
Yep, everything's ready to roll. I'll turn video on when it gets pertinent.
Sweet. Yeah. Be cool to show off some of your stuff. You've got a badass cactus garden.
Yeah, it'll be fun. If you guys have any difficulties hearing me when we go out there, just let me know. I live close to Nellis Air Force Base, and sometimes they fly over and make sound hearing impossible.
Yeah, they don't they don't care.
They don't. They fly pretty low.
They got sorties to fly.
Yeah, they have places to go and people to see.
Yeah. Um, Sweet. All right. Well, let's just get started, huh? Thank you guys for joining in PT Sportcast again. Everybody in the audience, thanks for joining in. Feel free to put some questions in the chat if you've got anything for Jeff about cactus and anything that we get into as we go along. Just try to tag me when you put something in so that I make sure I can take a look at it. I'll write the questions down and get to them as we go through it. Um, so yeah, welcome, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, dude. Appreciate you
Hey,
coming on here.
yeah, thank you very much for having me. This is I've been looking forward to this for weeks, and it's a big deal. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have too. So kind of a rundown. I kind of briefly talked to you about it, but for the people listening and the people in the audience, kind of want to go into who you are. I want to learn about you, learn about Jeff and your kind of your history and whatnot, and then we'll get into some how you got into cactus, that sort of thing, and then dive into more cactus specific things. Um, and I'd really love for you to be able to share your knowledge on grafting with everybody. You're huge into grafting from what I've seen. So, and then if there's anything that you want to dive into as well, we got no rules.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Thank you very much for the stage front. It's fun. And yeah, we can definitely talk about some grafting today. And that's kind of a very, very big topic for a lot of people, especially when they hit up my social media and kind of wonder what it is and why I do what I do.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, let's start out with Jeff. Tell me a little. I mean, tell me about yourself. Have you? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Cactus Jeff. I buy, sell, and rescue cacti. I photograph them. I also post a lot of videos on social media showing the beauty, specifically of the cactus. My name is Cactus Jeff because I always put the cactus first. It's very important to me that my plants are healthy and beautiful, and I'm always trying to level up my game at all aspects. Just like everybody who's listening in here today, I am just like you. I'm a normal guy who likes to grow cacti. I have an affinity for how beautiful they are, and I really, really love the weird and the wild and the crazy ones. If it's variegated, if it's monstrous, if it's crested, like that's my game, and I absolutely love looking and experiencing their beauty and watching them grow. When it comes to what I do and rescuing cacti, I live in Las Vegas, and this is a very transient city. People come and go all the time. A lot of people move in here and they want their yards to be just like it was back home, and they tend to destroy a lot of our local cacti. So I am called upon by many of our local nurseries when it comes to Star Nursery, Moon Valley Nursery, Lowe's, Home Depot, all these different nurseries. Um, they'll often send people my way to come out and rescue these gentle giants. And the largest cactus to date that I've moved is 1,800 pounds. I've assisted in some much higher ones, like 3,000 pounds. But
That's
when it
crazy.
comes to it is it can be a big job, and I don't have any mechanical machinery to move these things. We've all done it with muscle, and math is the best way to relocate them in the most inexpensive way. But hopefully someday I'll have something hydraulic, as I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah, hell yeah. So how do you do that? How do you move a giant cactus? And I imagine, I'm just gonna assume, but I imagine we're talking like saguaros and
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. The saguaro. So, well, let's just dial it back to 2020. I moved my first saguaro. Before I did it, I spent 1 year reading as much information as I could on social media. And then I went into my garage and I built a trellis that's on wheels. And the very first saguaro that I moved was right up against a pool. And the gentleman who wanted it gone had two young daughters who were getting older and wanted to be able to jump in the pool. He said he contacted 14 contractors and all of them told him no, it could not be moved. And so he was going to cut it down with a chainsaw if somebody didn't do something. And by the time I was contacted, I said, hey, I'd never moved one before. I've been researching this. Just give me 2 weeks to figure out a plan. And that plan consisted of me going in the garage, kicking around some lumber, drinking beer, and just going through math of how I would make this work by utilizing gravity the best I could. And
oh yeah,
so it's all it was basic high school math and some wood and screws, and man, that process went really well. I had 12 inches of space to kind of walk a plank. Either it was going to fall into the rocks or it was going to fall into the pool unless we did it correctly. And getting it down, I hired five other guys to help me out, and we just walked to that plank and it went right into the U-Haul, and everything worked out pretty easily.
nice.
Standing it back up, we needed four gentlemen, but the trellis was designed. Once you picked it up about 2 feet off the ground, the forks at the bottom of the trellis would hold it in place and kind of lower it in, and it was just very easy to stand up, even though it was around 1,100 pounds. Yeah, yeah, it was a
That's
crazy experience.
that's super cool. Just kind of going, I don't know, going in on it and not really knowing how to do it until you do it.
Yeah,
That's kind of everything, right? And
it
you do
is.
it
Yeah,
once, and you just have the confidence to figure it out. And you went out there, hammered it, and figured it out. That's super cool. How
yeah.
many do you think? I think you mentioned how many you've done, but like how many have you done this year, maybe?
So saguaros this year we're at five. I've rescued over 45 saguaros to date, and a lot of them have come here first before they found another home. And now I have a wait list of probably like 16 people that want one. So that makes it a lot easier and better on the specimen themselves. Relocating these big guys, you have to know what you're doing in order for them to survive. And I've gotten very lucky. Every single one I've ever moved has always survived. People don't think that they're relocatable, and that's 100% wrong. You can rescue these gentle giants if you're doing it right, and they are very gentle. You got to realize once you lay one of these on their side, they can get crushed very quickly because they're very tender epidermis and their vascular clusters underneath the tissue. They can get crushed, and once that's crushed, it's damaged for life. It'll never heal back to the beauty that we see each and every day when we look at a saguaro. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but once you get it down, it's a great process and it's very rewarding knowing that you've saved one of these sentient beings. I think it's just an honor for me to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, cool. So you're out here saving cactus and stuff. Um, what else? What actually got you into cactus?
That's a
How did you end up here? Yeah, where did it
that's
start?
a funny story. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, and there's no cactus to be found. And growing up in Wisconsin, I was very allergic to my environment. Still am out here in the desert. I'm still allergic to my environment. But when it comes to Wisconsin, growing up there, severe allergies. And when I was 18, buddy of mine, and we jumped into my Jeep and we drove from Wisconsin all the way out to San Francisco. Drove down the Highway One down California, all the way down to San Diego, and then we took off over to Arizona to visit with my aunt and uncle who lived in Tucson. When we got there, my eyes became very open for this magical place, which we call the desert. And the desert is not an easy place for a lot of people to survive and to thrive. But if you look around at the beauty of the magic of the desert, that's just what I fell in love with. There was no yards to mow. If you put a plant in its spot and you watered it, it stayed alive. If you didn't
Yeah.
water it, it died. And that's just kind of the environment in which I was exposed to at a young age. And then we started going out to different places and seeing different cacti. I remember going to a cactus garden out in Tucson at a very young age. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but very beautiful. That was my first exposure to just seeing these amazing gardens. And I even took home 5 or 6 cacti on that trip and brought them home. I killed them, of course. That's just kind of what happens when you take them to another environment and you don't know what you're doing. And I think it's very an interesting process of keeping them alive and knowing and understanding what dry arid climate versus humid climate, and how to keep and combat all the issues that go along with that. But yeah,
Right.
that's where I fell in love with it. And I kind of, just got back into regular life and forgot all about my love and passion for the desert until 15, 14, 15 years ago when we moved back here again and just dove straight into it. Well, actually, I had before that we lived in Hawaii for 3 years, and I did have a few cacti on the patio, and people would come over and be like, "Hey, do you want to see my cacti?" And they're like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, what are you talking about? It was just kind of an
That's
ongoing
funny.
joke. Yeah, yeah.
So, at what point did it become what it is? Not what it is now. Did it shift towards becoming what it is now versus just having some cacti on a patio? Like, you had
Yeah.
a job, you had, career, whatever, all these things, and you've shifted to this being your life, your career, your everything. How did that shift happen?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that story, but it's a time thing. But when we got into Vegas, my career followed me from I went from Minnesota to Hawaii. I worked for Target as a manager and opened up the entire Hawaii market and was out there for 3 years, and then moved to Vegas, stayed with Target, and then when we were out here for a couple months, we would go visit our friends out in California, and I kept complimenting them on their cactus garden. I think we were out there like 20 times, and they kept saying, "Hey, you want some? You want some?" I was like, "No, no, no, no. I don't have time for this in my life. Like my career is just too dominating to have time to go out in my garden and do any of this." And we ended up visiting my cousin when we were out there on one of those trips, and I complimented her on her cactus garden. And the very last day before we left town, she ends up giving me 3 bags full of cuttings, full of cuttings of cacti. And I was like, no, 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 I don't want this. I do not want this. And she goes, hey, just put them in the ground. You'll love it. It's gonna be fine. And my friend lived, 20 blocks away, so I just took those bags and we ended up driving right back to his house. And he goes, what are you doing here? I said, well, we have a problem. He's like, what's wrong? I said, you need to help me. He goes, what? And I open up the trunk. He goes, oh my God. He just starts digging through all the bags. He's like, I love this. I don't have this one. I don't have this one. I said, what are we going to do about this? Like, what do I need to do to figure this out? So instead of driving back to Vegas, we ended up going to nurseries and picking out pots and soil and all the stuff. And we started planting them. These are fresh cuttings, by the way. I say these are fresh cuttings. We started planting them right into the soil and getting them all going. And I traded him for some of his plants because he just wanted some of them, and I had multiples of many. That day was a pinnacle day for me. My cousin, she's passed away now, bless her heart. She put me on a track that would forever change my life. I went home with 89 cactus and plants that day. That was a
Wow.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Dove right into the deep end there.
Yeah. So, I mean, when people talk about their collections and they talk about, hey, I have 20 cactus, or I have 15 cactus, or I have 30 cactus, or I have 100 cacti. Doesn't matter what level you're at. I appreciate everybody's collection for what it is and how you grow, because you're going to have to crack some eggs in order to get to where you want to be. And you're going to have to kill some plants and have that really upset you or hurt your feelings enough to want to do better for the other plants that still exist. And I grow specifically through the power of observation. When it comes to observing my plants and learning from them, that is how I grow. You can go on social media, you can go on Reddit, you can go on all these groups and forums and ask for 20 bags of advice about how to do better growing. And it really comes down to you being the tool, you being the driver of observing your plants enough to know what they need. And your plants will speak to you. If you open up yourself enough to listen, they'll tell you exactly what they need, whether it's more water, more sun, less water, or less sun, soil, everything. You have to
Yeah.
be observing to that stuff, and that's how you become a better grower. Yeah.
So that's a solid point and a good tip to anybody growing and getting into growing or that has been growing. What are some things that you know that are kind of easier explained that you look out for? Like if you're, I'm sure there's a million of them, but what are some key things to be watching for in your cactus, and what do they mean?
Well, I live in a very dry, arid. We live in a very dry, arid region here, and so when it comes to a lot of the issues that people come in contact with, when it comes to fungal and bacteria related issues, we don't have a lot of that here. We don't have living soil in Vegas. We have to create our own environment in order to grow. We don't have gophers popping up out of the ground and eating
Right.
stuff. We don't have that stuff. If we get fungal, it can generally burn off in our environment. But like when it comes to pests are probably the number one issue that a lot of growers coincide with when it comes to wherever you grow at. And here in Nevada and Las Vegas, we have these leaf-footed bugs that'll stick their nose in your business. I'm not a huge fan of them. I know a lot of people have issues with rats and mice that'll chew on cacti. Those types of things can kind of fall into your environment because you have a food source for them. Um, when it comes to my solution personally for rats and that type of thing, like we have cats, and the cats go outside and roam around and rub their face on everything, and it kind of tells rats, "Hey, this is my territory. Stay away," and that solves a big, huge issue that a lot of people don't know how to solve. I think that there's different things you can grow in your environment to solve some of those issues that you might have. I'm not trying to bring the leaf-footed bug back to my environment ever because I've seen the dots and speckles that have shown up. Actually, let's go outside and I'll show you.
Yeah,
I'll
let's
show
see
you
what
what
we.
some little punks did to one of my cacti, and or a couple of my cacti. I put some beautiful spiral sierras in the garden. And let me know if it gets too loud out here by chance with traffic or anything.
No, you sound
Right,
good.
okay, cool. Yeah, when you get outside, things get change a little bit. Yeah, let's pop on some video here. There we go. Um, so the leaf-footed bug. Oh, we got some spider webs over here to look at too. But our leaf-footed bug, they did this. Can you guys see that?
Oh
You
yeah,
see
all the
the
little
dots and
speckles and
stuff?
everything. Yeah.
So I went to war with these guys for 3 years. I'm not a huge fan of. Um, I'll show you another one they did. They just totally messed up too. I'm not a huge fan of any form of herbicide, pesticide, but there's one that I do honor. It is Jack's Dead Bug. It's organic. I enjoy it for what it is. This cactus I'll show you in a moment was growing in my center garden, and they transversed from one of my favorite cacti. This is TPM right here. See how yellow it is? But do you
Yeah.
see all these little dots going down, up and down? The
Yeah.
leaf-footed bug did this, and they make little babies, and they all kind of just stick their nose in here and pull out like a little bit of juice, and the whole thing is just totally screwed up because of the leaf-footed bug. And what drew them in was one of my first cactus that my cousin gave me. Was the Eve's needles and the Eve's pin. That cactus specifically, they're drawn to the smell of that. And I saw them on there one year, and I'm like, I don't want to kill or hurt or harm anything. I'm not into destroying them, into growing. That's what I like to do. And when I saw the bugs, I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then I realized they transversed from that cactus to my TPM, and I said, "Oh no, you don't," because when it comes to my TPM, they are my babies. Like these are my oldest TPM right here. I absolutely love them. And this one actually went variegated and kind of discontinued for a little while, but you can see the variegation popping out of there.
That's
When it
awesome.
comes to my TPM, they're a really big deal to me. I absolutely hold and treasure these plants in my heart. I've been working with them for probably 7, 8 years now. They're absolutely
So
gorgeous cacti.
for like bug pests and stuff like that, are spiders like spiders good or bad
I
or
love spiders. Yeah, love spiders. They just leave a lot of webs, and I got to clean them up before my clients come over. But like my spiders, they help to clear out all your mosquitoes and your flies and all the different things that come along with that. And when it comes to the spider webs, it gets a little bit daunting. Trying to clear all of the webs, but yeah, I like them. They're my friends, and I don't ever try to kill them. Um, Thrips. I don't know if you guys have thrips in your environment. thrips will tend to go after cacti and leave. Okay, I'll show you this cactus. This is one of my more famous or highly controversial cacti, which is my variegated Mexican fence post. Whenever I show my variegated Mexican fence post on social media, people people say all sorts of different things, and it just kind of makes me laugh. But if you look at the variegated Mexican fence post, you can see how it skips. I've grafted one to a much thicker Mexican fence post back last year, and this is what it grew into. You see how it kind of skips like Charlie Brown's T-shirt?
Oh yeah.
Well, thrips will come after this cactus, and they like to go after my variegation. It's a little tiny bug, little tiny insect. So I didn't realize last year when I was getting ready to cut these guys, they went after all of my variegation. I was so upset, and I was like, "Oh my god, they destroyed! They could have terminated my variegation." But this is so stable. I've probably sold well over what, maybe 20 or 30 of these grafts to people, and it's amazing how it grows on its genetic. There's another threesome growing right up over there as well. I don't
What's
know how to make
the
my camera.
you can't, unfortunately you can't zoom in with
Okay, okay.
Discord. But what's the controversy of that? It seems
Oh my
pretty
god.
visually obvious what's going on, but
Oh
again,
my
I
God.
don't
I mean,
really know
so,
shit.
well, when it comes to variegation and it comes to variegation on plants, generally you try to see variegation for what it is. And I know a lot of growers, they see like the beautiful marbling that comes up. Like this is Rosia right here, has very beautiful marbling coming up. And my Mexican fence post, I bought it as a seedling years ago, back before I was really, really good at finding a spot for variegation to live and thrive without burning here in Nevada. I gave it to my friend. And generally, your variegation doesn't skip. It shows like some form of marbling, which we're seeing some pretty good kind of marbling and etching in here. But when it skips, it goes from green to yellow to green to yellow. That's not normal in most CV. You won't see that form um, often. So what I'm being accused of by people on um, like YouTube or something like that, they keep coming over to all my formats, is that I'm putting some form of chemical on these in order to induce that look, which is absolutely crazy. It's in the end, I would never use chemicals on my plants. It's not my style, but it's just something that people can't comprehend, that it keeps in this formation of skipping from green to yellow, green to yellow, green to yellow. Yeah, crazy, huh?
Crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
Those
it's
are
just
super
very
cool.
unnatural compared to what you normally see with most variegates.
So maybe for those that don't know and aren't here seeing your video, we can explain variegation.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to variegation, many people have different opinions on it. Yeah, I'll tell you specifically, I think that it's absolutely beautiful. I look at variegated cacti, and they're wonderful to me. Back when I started growing my garden, all I wanted was a little bit of color in my garden. I wanted to come home from work, drink a beer, smoke a cigarette, which I don't smoke anymore, but smoke a cigarette and just enjoy the garden and look at contrast of color and boldness. Because when it comes to gardens and growing cacti, what is your vast majority? It's green. It's green, green upon green upon green. And when I discovered the little moon cactus that they sell at Lowe's and Home Depot, and I was like, these things are cool, but they only live for like 3 months. Why do they always die? Well, it's the stock. It was the stock that we came into issues with. And I just wanted to have some color in my garden. Well, when I understood exactly what variegation is, I was like, this is why it's so difficult to have them in gardens, because they are not a strength, they are a weakness. A lot of people refer to them as being a virus, a viral genetic mutation. And when it comes to a viral genetic mutation, that is generally not a strength within the plant. That is a weakness. But all things change, right? And you can't induce variegation into a plant. It's got to be something that happens within the genetics. And oftentimes, when you go to try to, let's go look over at Abel for a second. Abel is such a strong plant that oftentimes when I graft, these are all Abel right in here. Abel is a very, very blue, beautiful cactus. But when you get really strong variegation flowing through it, I will have to graft 20 Abels in order to get one very strong variegated um, a variegated specimen coming out of it. And sometimes I get lucky. So this one right here, I grafted as a tip graft. When I graft as a tip graft, that means we got good variegation. Well, it reverted. It went all blue, and then boom, the variegation started coming back. So when it comes to variegation, it's never a guarantee that you're going to have a very beautiful plant. You could buy one of these and cut it up into 20 pieces and get just a bunch of blue in one variegate. It's a crapshoot sometimes. And then other ones you work with when it comes to um, like this beauty, which everybody wants right now. This is variegated Althea. Variegated Althea is a very, very strong variegation. It's very fun to work with, and it's such a beautiful. Dr. Funkenstein is another one. Very, very strong, very, very beautiful CB to work with. And a lot of people have a hard time rooting it. Well, it comes down to the strength of the plant. If you have maybe 60-40, 60% yellow, 40% green, you can root that. It's going to take longer to root it, but you can root that. It just you got to be very calm and chill with it. Like don't try to force it a bunch of water, etc. Otherwise, you're probably going to kill it. But if it's 50-50 or 60-40 on the opposite direction, you have more green than yellow, it's going to be so much easier to work with. It's because that plant doesn't pull in enough food to support itself. And a lot of people don't generally understand that.
Gotcha. So yeah, from my understanding, the yellow, the variegation, um, is not. It doesn't have. Man, I'm drawing a blank. What's the word? Chlorophyll.
Yeah, the ability to pull, yeah, the ability to feed itself from the sun, like it just doesn't have it. So
It
there
can't
are a few.
photosynthesize.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And when it comes to these plants, it might have a little bit of green underneath. There's a few. I heard like Annie and Burt's, which it can come off as being a very yellow banana when it grows out. Annie and Burt's can be rooted provided that there's enough green right underneath the epidermis. And when you cut and look at the bottom, you'll see like all that green is kind of like just underlying right underneath the epidermis. Chances are the sun can reach that and feed itself. It'll take longer to root, but it's possible.
Gotcha. So is that
Yes.
why then you see most people grafting variegated stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's a great way to grow it faster. Grafting 101 is just growing the cactus faster. Taking it and putting it on a rocket. Basically, whatever your stock is that you're using is going to help to grow this cactus faster and be able to produce more. If it wasn't for grafters, the world would probably never see most of these variegated cacti in their homes. You'd see one or two on social media, and maybe by the time you're 80, you'd see 5 or 6 in other people's gardens, and that's what you would see. When it comes to grafters, having the fortitude to be able to take these expensive plants and cut them up and make more, it's never a guarantee. If you cut and make 20, you might not get 20. You might get zero. You might get 10. You might get 20. But in the end, that is the gamble that grafters are willing to take in order to appreciate that plant, to see so many more of them do so many different things than what you expected, and three, be able to share them with the world. I think it's important that people understand that grafters are doing this for a reason. They're doing it because it's their calling to share these amazing plants with the world, and to keep them on a graft is not the end all end all. Most of us would love to see them in their most beautiful form. When I saw Grechus for the first time, and if you guys don't know what Grechus is, let's go ahead and take a look at one. I got two of them that are around like 3 or 4 feet tall right now. Oh, one of them's doing a little bendy thing. So here's
Mhm.
Grechus. And Grechus is such a cool CV. Like it has like these um, shark fin or whale fin looking vestigial leaves in between each one of the rib structures. And I think it's such a beautiful cactus. It's a mutation from your blue myrtle, your Myrtilio cactus. And when it comes to these guys, yeah, you're getting heavy. Look at you. We're gonna have to fix that later. You're supposed to be standing up here, boy. Anyway, like when it comes to Grechus, I saw this for the first time and my mind exploded. I literally said, "Hey, I would absolutely love to see a huge stand of this growing in my garden. What would it take to have this growing in my garden as a massive stand?" Not realizing when I went after it that it's almost nearly impossible to root. A lot of these guys, they have like an 80% failure rate when you're trying to root them. and I've done it. This
Really?
is I'm probably at 110% now. This is my first one. I don't know if it's rooted. It's been in here for about 2 months now. It's actively growing on the tip. It's got a couple of pups. It's bendy because that's the way it was growing when it broke off. And I had it in the house callousing for about 3 weeks before I even grew the nerve to put it in the garden because it's such a beautiful piece. It's probably 15 inches tall, and who knows what it's going to do. Kind of hoping that when it plumps up, it decides to stand up straight. I don't want to force anything. I don't want to pull it out and look at its roots, but this bad boy is growing right in my garden, and we'll see what happens.
So
I'm gonna
why is
guess.
it?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So why is it difficult to root that cactus in particular?
Well, they say both Grecus and Glorp are very finicky, and I will contest that. So if you want to look at Glorp, here's Glorp right here giving me a hard time. Beautiful, beautiful graft, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it gets brown tip. And I talk about this on my social media, where brown tip just popped out of nowhere, where he just tries to like commit suicide. It's such a on anybody's social media. I always say the same. Giggity. It's my thing. Like I love these are mutations. Once again, these are mutations from the original. And the original of Blue Myrtle is just a blue. Everybody knows what Blue Myrtle looks like. I can go into detail about it. It is a cactus that roots very, very well for some myrtle. It could take me 6 months to get roots, maybe longer. This is a Blue Myrtle monstrous that we're looking at right here. And oh, cool, we got a fruit today. Let's go ahead and pluck that bad boy. When it
Yeah,
comes to Blue Myrtle, if I go ahead and cut one of these arms, it could take me 6 months in order to root this. And when it takes 6 months on here, people are looking at maybe like 3 or 6 months in California to root a glorp, maybe. And look at Jeremy Precocerius. He had a beautiful one for what, over a year and a half, and all of a sudden just boom, just like that. It was rooting, it was growing, it was doing everything, and boom, it just gave up on his life. And it's so sad to see so many people trying to attempt the exact same thing. Yeah, there's a crested glorp right over there. Kind of do its thing. It's on a graph, but it's kind of doing its thing. It'll be a beautiful one in time. But like they just all of a sudden commit suicide or planticide, whatever you want to call it. They just want to.
that's
They have to
crazy.
stay on a graph. It really is. It really is. And I don't know how many glorps I've sold or how many I've worked with. This is the first one I put in my garden over here. This is glorp, and he's doing really well. The weeds are doing better, but yeah, he's doing really well. And I love watching him grow. And who knows what the future is for this guy? Once those arms get so big, they could break off, or it could turn into a really
Right.
beautiful stand. But I put it on a sun goddess because sun goddess is really good at keeping up with glorp and grecus. Sun goddess, you can water it, feed it more aggressively than you can pachanoi, and it glorp and grecus are a stock sucker. They will suck the living life out of whatever stock they're on. But it seems like Sun Goddess keeps up really well. So I've been using Sun Goddess for the last maybe 2 or 3 years on most of my glorps. Not all of them, but most of them. Yeah.
So I think that's a good
All right.
transition into grafting stuff. You're obviously looking at your garden and your social media and whatnot. You're a grafting guru in my eyes. Um, what are some?
I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. When it comes down to what I do, anybody can do what I do. But I have, I think we're going to my 12th year of grafting. It's 12 years of experience now.
Yeah,
What the more and more you do this, the more and more you learn. And last year I stopped counting after 600. It's over 600 grafts. This year I'm probably going to do closer to maybe 1,000, 1,500. I'm not really sure exactly where I'm going to land. But I got really busy in the wintertime because this is fun to do, and it's fun to see what you can grow, and it's fun to share with people. A lot of these things that we're looking at are going to get so big that I'm going to chop them all up and put them into new grafts or sell them as cuttings, because that's the nature of my business. I would love to keep everything growing just the way it is and never have to cut a single one of these guys ever again. But when it comes to learning how to graft, it's all through experience. You have to cut and kill some in order to learn from your mistakes. And some people are afraid to do that. I highly suggest if you want to get into grafting, use cheap cactus. Use cheap cactus that you can get in your area. Lowe's, Home Depot, all these places. Get some stocks that are cheap and get some scions that are cheap, and watch them blossom and grow. I never started with expensive stuff. I never would have bought a cactus for $2,000 and chopped it up into 20 pieces back in the day. Now that I do some of that stuff and people recognize some of those things, it's fun, it's exciting, it's scary at times. But when it comes down to it, anytime you cut a cactus, you have to do it with precision, you have to do it with respect, and you have to understand the plants. Just like surgery for a human being. If you are doing surgery on a plant, you should be doing it in a very surgical manner. A lot of my videos show me grafting in the kitchen. It's not very often I'll graft outside, but I graft most of my stuff in the kitchen in a clean environment, just as we would be in a hospital if we were grafting ourselves.
Right. So with grafting, what are some things? Let's say I was to go grab some inexpensive cactus, and I'm going to try grafting today. What are some tips? What are some pointers? Some things to make sure I have, and things to make sure I do.
Oh, sure. So one of the things I like to do is whenever I make my two cuts, I make two simple cuts and put them together, is I like to use powdered sulfur. Sulfur, I look at it as being neosporin for cacti, and I lightly dust sulfur on my open wounds after I put the two cacti together. Another thing that I get is sports wrap. Sports wrap is one of my most commonly asked questions in all of my videos. I use wrap because it can breathe, and people love the fact that it can breathe because it will prevent any form of um, like bacteria or mold growing underneath on your scion. That's pretty important because I've had that. I've used the regular grafting tape, which people will use on on just their trees and whatever else.
Yeah,
And
fruit
it seems
trees
to
and
me that
whatnot.
yeah, it seems to me it's got a good stretch to it, but it seems like it holds in too much moisture, and that's usually a problem. So I use sports wrap. Has a good flexibility to it, and I think it's really just kind of cool to use, and I can cut it to shape, everything else. Sharp knives. I use I use the method of one knife, one cut. I'm very specific about that. You'll see it in my videos. I make one cut, one knife. So I used to be a chef for many years, and let's say I'm going to cut my arm off right here. Okay. Once I make that cut, I am literally pushing bacteria that's growing on my skin down into both new cuts. Okay. Sounds very morbid to say. So let's transition to this. There is literally bacteria all over the epidermis of every one of your cacti, same as your skin, everything else, right? A lot of the bacteria in your skin is called staph. So when you make that cut, you're taking that knife and you're pushing bacteria into both sides of what you just cut. Okay.
Mm.
I see grafters using dirty knives, rusted metal, all these different things. And their success rate is just plummeting and going down. So one clean sterile knife, and I sterilize my knives with 70% rubbing alcohol. And that 70% rubbing alcohol, once I spray it on there and then wipe off the knife, I let it sit there for no less than 20 seconds before I use that knife again. So people like to laugh that I have a lot of knives. Well, that's the reason I'm cutting and grafting and doing everything very quickly. And then when I go to clean and sterilize, then I let them air dry, and then I go into the next set and I start picking them up and using them. One cut, one slice, and then that's it. So for a vast majority of these guys, oh dude, look, that just started pupping. So for a vast majority of these guys, this was one cut and this was one cut, and we're just done. Okay.
So for every
If you're doing
rib that
surgery
you're
on your arm, you're trying to reattach your arm. Go ahead. No, go
sorry,
ahead.
for every rib that you're beveling, you're using a new knife.
So beveling is yeah, yes and no. Yes and no. You'll see some beveling in my work. Usually when I work on Sun Goddess, it's beveling. So when I make and Sun Goddess can be a real big pain in the butt. I have needles flying at my face when I'm cutting into these bad boys, but it's still one of my favorite stocks to use. But when I make my first initial cut, like I'm sawing, which I don't saw the vast majority of anything that I do. So that original saw, that's not going to stay there. So I'll take that dirty knife or that clean knife and I'll start sawing. Then I'll take that same knife and start beveling. Once all that is done and everything is done, I'll take that knife, throw it off to the side, and I'll take another clean knife and I'll make my new slice. And that pad will go right back on there and stay there until I'm ready to mount my scion, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, when yeah, absolutely. So when you mount your scion to your rootstock, what is the goal there? Like, how are you lining it up any particular way, or how does that work?
Absolutely. I just go straight on these days. There's a when you start grafting, a lot of people will tell you a lot of things. And even when I started my own graft club, and remember we started talking about some of those rules that we would read on social media or different hints and tricks that we pick up. And a lot of people talk, actively speak about that vascular ring having to be overlapped. Like infinity, the infinity mark. You have to like overlap it like this. That is a myth. That is 100% a myth, and people will say that. Um, the myth is sitting right in front of us. You see how that little Chloropanthia is just kind of sitting right in the middle of that, middle of an old stock. I tried to mount things right in the middle, right on top, and because at 1A it looks pretty, and 2B it grows just fine. I started by overlapping all my vascular rings back in the day, and because I was having a lot of failures, I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. I was doing everything possible in the world to try to be successful. A lot of people don't understand that you have your vascular ring right here. Well, what's on the other side of that vascular ring? It's your vascular clusters. All of that is feeding energy up and down, going all the way through the whole circulatory system of your plant. It does not matter if you overlap them or not. People will say if you overlap them, they grow faster, they do all these different things. Everything in this garden right here is dead center. All my grafts are dead center. I do not overlap vascular rings. Only time you'll see any of that is when you have your slab graft. And your slab graft, a vast majority of my slab grafts, I cut the vascular ring off. It's not even there anymore. So what am I
Hmm.
working with? If there's no vascular ring, what am I working with? I'm working with vascular bundles, which are on the exterior. Well, there's a little bit of a vascular ring on that one. Is it blurry? Can you guys see it? I don't
A
know.
little blurry, yeah.
But like, there is a little blurry. There's a little bit of vascular ring, but the vast majority, I'm just shaving all that off and just working with the vascular clusters. If you had to overlap vascular rings, wouldn't this be dead? Wouldn't this not work? And you have to
Interesting.
ask yourself, like, why are we being told these things? And in the end, the rules are meant to be broken. People make rules because they're not succeeding very well and they want to have a better foundation for what they're doing or a better understanding. And the one thing that I tell people is I didn't have anybody to teach me this stuff. When my friend and I just started grafting 11, 12 years ago, we did it by watching YouTube. And those people on YouTube, they were not speaking English. So we were just watching the videos. We were watching the guy with the dirty knife, in a country overseas. I think he was in Thailand or Singapore. And that's how we got started. We watched by what he was doing, and we came home and we did the same stuff. We went and bought some cactus and did the same stuff. And we had some failures and we had some success. I think we had 80% failures, but we never stopped. We just every time we got together, we graft some more and do some more stuff, and it was just kind of fun. And one of my very first grafts is still alive. This is what 11, 12 years later, is still alive at his house, and it's doing really well. It was a mammillaria, like a round ball mammillaria that I put onto like a pacanoe or something. And then eventually, what, 5 years later, it started growing another arm. So I put another one on that one, and they're all doing
That's
really
awesome.
well. And it's kind of cool to see your old work from a really, really long time ago thriving and happy. Some people think that you put a graft on with the expectation that you're going to cut it off in time and root it and whatever else. It doesn't always have to be that way. Like those two right back there, that Ariocarpus. I don't know if you can see that Ariocarpus back there, or even that Corypanthia right there. Those guys can stay on there for all time. We never have to take them off. They're never going to get so huge that they're going to fall and break off. They can stay there for all time and make babies and do whatever they're going to do and be happy. And what I'm hoping for eventually is flowers. Like I want to see some blooms on those bad boys. I want to see all my cacti bloom. I think that it's absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful when they do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely my favorite part. So, back
yeah.
to the grafting thing, you've mentioned a couple different kinds of grafts. You've mentioned your tip graft and your slab graft. Maybe explain those. What's the purpose and why do you choose which one?
Well, everybody's favorite is the tip graft. They love seeing the stability. So here's Sideswipe. This is the only cactus I've ever named in my life, and it's probably this big when I put it on. And this has been growing for the last, what, 6 or 7 months right now. that is very stable. That's a very stable junction. You're probably not going to have any issues when the wind comes by and blows it off. And then you deal with, here is a puck graft. So puck graft will be just like the middle portion of, just a column, and you pop it down and then something pops out of it. Well, obviously this Able is absolutely one I'm super proud of. It's absolutely so gorgeous. I did not graft this. I bought this one. But at some point in time, unless that union stays very, very strong from puck to the new pup, you could have issues when it gets on a windy day where it blows off and breaks off. This right here is a spritzu. The spritzu is from Australia, and this is a little tiny slab graft right here. Slab graft is the slow. Well, actually, it's not the slowest. It's the second slowest to pup out of formation for when it comes to grafts. Your slowest is actually the butt graft. So, let's say I took this pup off and chopped it into pieces, and I took the leftovers on the bottom and flipped it upside down onto a graft. That's called a butt graft because it's upside down. Those take the longest to pup, but when they do, they become a pup factory. Yeah, those are the differences.
The reasoning behind them, so I imagine a something like a slab graft is going to be your hope. You've got a specific part of the cactus that you're hoping a pup pops out of, maybe a variegated thing, variegated areola, or I hope I'm saying
Yeah.
that right.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, you
so
are
that's the
aerially.
purpose
Yeah. So
behind
what
that.
I I say everything wrong, so you can't say anything wrong in my presence when it comes down to it. I've read all this stuff, so I'm probably the biggest idiot when everybody listens to me talk. I'll say areoli. When things grow skinny, I'll say etylation. It's just how I read it. So don't think that you could ever say anything wrong in my presence. I'm not here to judge you or be, oh, that's not how you say. I don't mind any of those things. Yes, when it comes to slab graft, you're looking at specific isolation. So right now we're looking at OG rod, and see that pup coming out. That looks really, really cool, doesn't it? Look at the
Yeah.
marbling. Look how much yellow it has. And it could have been a 50-50 crapshoot of what came out because half the slab was yellow and half of it was green. I could have cut those green areoles off to force more energy out of the yellow. I didn't have to in this instance. And I just struck gold. It's beautiful in the way it's growing. But when it comes to slabs, you are trying to isolate, obviously, the yellow. The yellow and green marbling is what I'm after. Here on Yogo has all yellow. Some people like that, some people don't. But a lot of people, collectors, love that marbled look right there. It's just absolutely gorgeous in the way that it grows. And so, sorry, I'm burping. I'm drinking beer. When it comes to a little bit of marbling coming out, so like, let's say it came out of that areole instead, which is all yellow. That could have came out strictly banana. Doesn't mean it's going to, but it could have. I could actually get a fully variegated pup coming out of the green as well. But when you're doing slab grafts like that, you're trying to make many. Is basically what you're doing. You're trying to make a plethora of these cacti, and you're trying to utilize as much of the tissue as you can to one, a probably create more profit, or two, just grow as many as you can, or three, make something new, which can happen as well. You never know. Like that OG rod could come out as the first OG rod crest in all human history, and you could be the coolest guy on the planet because of it. In reality, you never know to grafting and how they're all going to come out. There's no guarantees. I could have made, I don't know how many I made, maybe like 15 or 20 OG rods. When it comes down to it, I probably have maybe like 10 or 12 of those around still. Maybe I've sold a few along the way, but yeah, when it comes down to it, you just never know what you're going to get out of them. So um, sometimes when you're doing a bunch of slabs, or like that one that I was just showing you, remember that little tiny slab that, yeah, on the splitzer here? I did that little tiny slab. That's a gamble. When you see people on social media doing this and showing it off, that's a gamble. They could have made 10 of these and the other 9 died. And they're just showing off this tiny little um slab that they made. Don't fall into that trap. When you're grafting, you're just starting out. Don't think that you can make 100 out of one column. But like what that is right there is just this. It's a little piece of this. Wouldn't you rather go after this or take all three of these and go after this? If you're just starting out, use all three of these and be smart about your time and your the amount of money, your investment that you put in. Don't go after something like this because you saw somebody on social media do it. That's not always accurate for what's possible for new people to start out. And if anything, I'll tell you openly and honestly, that's luck. It's 100% luck for somebody to be able to grow a beautiful spritzu out of that little tiny.
Out there, Jeff. For anybody just listening and not able to see the video, what he was just talking about is the ribs for the slabs. Um, Single rib is a bit more difficult and is kind of a crapshoot and really gamble. Let me see if we can get him sorted back out. He kind of disappeared. You guys hear me still? Okay. And are we having trouble with hearing Jeff, or is that just me? Okay. Let me try to sort this, get this figured out real quick. Go. There he is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh my god, my phone overheated. I was outside too long. It's 104 degrees outside. I should not have stayed out there that long. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all good. You're all good.
I had to throw my phone in the freezer.
Oh, dang. Yeah, it's freaking hot out here.
It's so boiling. It's crazy.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to touch on, or have you touch on, you kind of mentioned it early on, um, but climate-wise, and this kind of this, I mean, comes from what we're just talking about. It's wicked hot outside here. You sell a lot of stuff, and you ship all over the place. And one
Yeah.
thing you mentioned before is, managing something coming from one climate to another. How what are some tips you have for people that are purchasing and having cactus mailed to them, uh what they should do?
Yeah, I love talking about acclimation. When it comes to acclimation of cacti, um, it's crazy knowing your cacti, and that's why I talk about the power of observation, growing with the power of observation. So some of the things that I do here in Nevada, which is an extremely brutal climate, our neighbors in Phoenix know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're growing here and you're buying plants from other regions, it can be pretty crazy. I have a couple of cacti that came in from other parts of the world recently, and um, me looking at their regions and kind of looking at mine should be very similar in nature. Putting them in the ground, even under a 30% sunshade, they instantly start burning. And when you're experiencing that, it's because your callus isn't strong enough to your region via how your sun is, how close you are to the sun, or how thin your atmosphere is, or whatever the situation is. I have cacti that I will purchase in California and sell out here in Vegas, but I will not sell them for a year to a year and a half without acclimating them first. Last thing I want to do is see these cacti burn up in the sun in Las Vegas while going into your garden. And a lot of people plant things just into full sun because that's just the way it's supposed to be. It's easy that way. Well, there's certain types of cacti. Let's talk about, or even succulents. Let's talk about the Madagascar ocotillo. Madagascar ocotillo is a pretty amazing specimen. I would show you right now, but we don't want to shut down the podcast again.
All
But
good.
the Madagascar ocotillo, I'll purchase them, and I will. My clients have a 100% success rate growing them in their gardens. But when I bring them here from Cali, I spend a year and a half acclimating. And what that means is in the wintertime, when it's super cold, I will move that plant right up close to the house because there's ambient heat that will come off of my home, and I know and understand that it'll keep that plant warmer than it would in the middle of the garden. Same in the summertime when it's super hot and we have AC on in the house. I will move it up closer to the house during the summer, put it in a shadier spot, and that acclimation really is a power play for my plants. There's areas in the United States where other people grow. They do not have to do these things because they have an easier environment in order to grow their plants. But for me, I don't want to sell something to somebody which they fail at. That's not what I want to do. I want to see people succeed when they're growing, and so acclimation is a big deal.
No,
I
what
hear a lot
about
of
sorry,
no,
what
go
about
no go ahead.
somebody, what about the other way around? So something coming from the heat and the extreme conditions and going to a place that's maybe more humid or not as
Yeah.
hot or not as much sun.
Yeah, so like when it comes to that's where I get a lot of people that want to buy from me, because when you're growing things in such an extreme environment where the plant is forced to go to sleep in the winter and forced into shock in the summer, when you're taking a plant that is barely, it's thriving, but it's 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 near death at any moment, if you cut off the water supply or whatever, you change something. Once they get to a new environment that is more luxurious, man, they really take off. They really, really take off. I've heard a lot of growers that will purchase something from other climates that don't sleep. Let's use California as an example. A vast majority of California, their plants do not sleep. They will maybe sleep for a week or 30 days out of the entire year, and they get a vast majority of growth because they grow in such an amazing, luxurious environment. Once those plants are sent to a harsh environment, or maybe like um, a slower environment. So if I lived in Minnesota or Wisconsin like I used to, we have, snow, and we have summertime, and we have fall and spring. The environment completely changes, and there is a big sleep pattern that happens, and those plants can go into shock, and sometimes they won't make it because they don't understand exactly what it means to go to sleep. Their growth development can become very skinny because they don't see the amount of sun and rain that they're getting out in that region. So some of those patterns can be different for the plants, and a lot of growers can get down on themselves because they have this big, huge, thick chunk of scapulicola that they bought from somebody who's growing it in an amazing environment like Australia or amazing environment like California, and they get it to their house and all of a sudden it starts to grow skinny, and they're like, "What am I doing wrong? How am I screwing this up? Like, am I not throwing enough gypsum on it? What am I doing wrong to this plant?" And it's very environmental. It's very environmental. A vast majority of our America, just even in America, your plant is going to be forced into sleep mode. And if they don't have to sleep, they're going to grow very thick and big and massive, which I'm extremely jealous of. I'm trying to replicate some of that within my environment, and it's always about trial and error, and it's always about the power of observation. Some of my plants are growing a lot thicker this year because of the amount of money I've stuck into sunshades and placement and moving things around and getting them in the ground. I'm seeing some really fantastic results in that aspect, but it all comes down to making changes for your plants in the right direction, for your region.
Gotcha. Yeah, just watching them. That's kind of how I can relate that over to, the mushroom side of things is, being able to look at what's going on and understand it is so much more helpful than, reading specific instructions online. Though you do have to start somewhere and kind of have an idea and then learn from those experiences.
You do. I mean, it really jet sets you to sit down and do some reading. I'm not a big reader, but when it comes to reading about cacti and plants and what other people are doing, I read a lot. I read a lot on different formats, and some of it I apply, and some of it I don't. Some of it I have to read 3 or 4 times before I think, hey, maybe there's something to this. And I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody who was having problems with their plants, and they're going out and they're buying all these different things to try to change the issues that they're having with their plants, and none of them are working. None of them are working, but they're doing this solo mission of reading and then applying and reading and applying, and they're not seeing any changes, or they're not seeing any benefits, or they're not seeing the results that they're searching for. And a lot of that can be just regional. It's just specifically regional. And you're going to have the best possible plants you can grow within your region, dictating where you're growing in your environment. It's not all the same. It's not all the same. And I can't tell you how much, if I had hair on top of my head, I'd rip it out. I can't tell you how jealous I am of some of these thick cannons these guys are growing out there. And it's just absolutely amazing to see some of the trichos that are so beautiful and what they can grow into, and what I'm restricted to do here in my garden. And but even planting some of that stuff in the ground this year, I'm constantly learning. I'll tell you, like, I'm constantly learning. This is what, year 14 for me, and putting a bunch of that stuff in the ground this year, my mind is blown. Like specifically, it's just blown by seeing how thick some of them are getting. And I'm like, Jeff, you finally figured out how to do something better for yourself. Rather than putting them in pots, you're putting them in the ground. And look at how close you planted them together, and they're getting thicker. I'm like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, well, I have a plan for that. But in the end, I'm like, I'm so excited just seeing like their thickness and their happiness. And I think one of the best things about any cacti is planting them in the ground, just letting them do their thing, letting them show you what they can be. Not everybody has those environments to be able to plant them in the ground, but maybe that's not true. Maybe you could do some of that if you planted it all on the ground in a greenhouse and it wasn't getting too much rain, or in the wintertime it wasn't freezing. Like making changes for your plants and seeing some really big results.
So that kind of leads into a good question. What so say like Midwest and you're dealing with snow and crazy weather and that kind of thing. Say you've got them out. Summertime is nice outside.
Mhm.
Um, moving them into a grow tent with like a bunch of lights and stuff like that for the winter. Um, does that negatively affect them, or would that be a good idea?
You know, when it comes to growing stuff indoors, I'm on year number 2, and I do that in the winter now. This is my second. This is was my second winter, and my first winter was I started pretty small, and this winter I went a little chaos. Um, but I loved watching things grow. I don't diagnose myself as seasonal depression, but like when I'm not watching my plants do their thing, a little part of me inside dies, and I feel that I've really come to life in the wintertime by growing inside. And I've turned my wife will be like, what are you doing to our house? But I've turned like 2 or 3 rooms like into grow rooms, like just watching stuff grow. Like
Nice.
and it's a little it's a lot, but like for me it's totally manageable for somebody like myself that just has the right balance of ADHD and energy with the right balance of time and etiquette for my plants. And I just keep adding rooms. And I'll tell you, I'm taking a shower, I'm looking at my plants, like because they're growing right there next to the shower in one room. And it's just inspiring to me to see them every single day doing a little something different. And getting it dialed in, getting your cacti dialed in to a good indoor grow situation is not the easiest. And I'll tell you, growing indoors here in Nevada, like coming up with fungal issues, which I've never had outside, that stuff starts to happen. And even thrips in the wintertime, moving into your plants. And it's like, where did these come from? Why is this happening? And you will encounter new issues every single day when you're growing indoors. And people told me, and I didn't understand exactly what it meant, but I moved 95% of all my plants outside, and it feels so good just to be able to go outside and take care of them out there and tend to them out there. But I had pretty easy transitions for a vast majority. And some of that stuff is really thickening up into a more beautiful formation, thicker, beautiful, full looking genetics compared to what they're supposed to look like versus via growing inside. It's a magical thing to be able to grow outdoors in your environment and have your plants enjoy the sun and the wind the way they're supposed to. Trying to mimic that environment or trying to make even a better environment for them with fake lighting and fans and everything else that goes along into it, nothing will beat a day at the beach. And I'll tell you, like when it comes to people and it comes to our plants, when it comes to our cacti and our plant and us, we're the same. We're the exact same. We love being out in the sun. It's just good for us. It's healthy for us. It helps us to become stronger and better at everything that we do, versus being indoors all the time and being captive. So yeah,
Fair.
finding a good balance for your plants and trying to get them outdoors when you can is probably the best thing you can do for them. But a lot of people have to be careful. So I always tell people, if you're going to move a cactus from indoors to outdoors, there's a very slow 2 week process of acclimation that I speak actively to. So if I take a cactus that's been growing indoors, or if I even take a cactus that's been in a box for a week being shipped to me, I slowly move it out to the sun. The first day, I'll give it 30 minutes of morning sun. The second day will be 45 minutes, and I'll slowly build up to 6 hours over the course of 2 weeks. That if you do it like that, you will never burn one of your cacti. You'll never see like tip being terminated and turning black, that type of stuff. Is slow acclimation. And another thing is, if you're in the United States, your cacti never see sun on the north side. On the northern hemisphere, your cacti never see sun. So if you're taking your cactus outside and you're turning it this way and you're looking at them and you're doing all this stuff, make sure you're setting it back in the exact same formation of where you've been growing it so that one area is always pointed south. That south callus and your west callus on your sun are the strongest for that plant. It's already been acclimated to that. If you're turning them around because you want your cactus to grow in a different direction, you're now shocking your plant and it'll stop growing. It'll start fighting for life and try to recallus itself. It could possibly burn in that area where it hasn't seen sun before, and you're going to have more issues.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's a good tip. Not something I think everybody thinks about. The sun's just up in the sky, right? But yeah,
Right,
no direct sunlight from the north.
right.
It's kind of wild. So, for some newer guys, where are some good places that you could maybe recommend that people are able to find information and do their own kind of research on things? Do-
Ooh, that's a that's a good one. I don't know. I mean, when it comes to different formats, you won't find me in a lot of groups. I'm there. I'm in a lot of groups, but I'm not very active in a lot of groups. I'm kind of a lurker, I guess. I'm not big into the whole troll aspect of groups and all that stuff, but there's information that I find on Reddit. I'll read things on Reddit. I'll read things on different groups on Facebook groups when it comes to tricho, and I'm probably on maybe 30 groups in there. Las Vegas, we have our own specific groups. If you're growing in Louisiana and you're looking for more helpful tips about soil and buying cacti and trading and growing and learning how to do a better job, I would specifically look at your region and the regional growers and ask questions from people. That's probably the best thing you can do. One of the worst things you can do is read something on a format like Reddit and take it for the word as God, because a lot of people on different formats just repeat something that they heard somebody say one time when they're at grandma's party and Uncle Joe is drunk, and that's the information that they're trying to share on social media as the truth, and it's not always the
Yeah.
truth. Or from the opposite end of the spectrum, another person is stating something that they've tried 15 times in their area and it's working really really well, and then you go and try and it doesn't work at all. And that's a regional based thing. Like I said, power of observation is the best key to growing. Is really paying attention to your plants and understanding what they need and looking at them. But if I were to write a cactus gardening book right now, I heard somebody say this the other day. He's like, I bought all these cactus gardening books a long time ago, and I was reading through all of them. Well, the author never even grew a plant a single time in his life. He was just pulling out information that was on the web and replaying it out there and giving people props for what they were saying. But it was totally people that were writing stuff from all over the world, and it wasn't even a regional specific. It wasn't regional specific information. So, which directly makes all of that information false for one grower to try to do. A vast majority of the
Sure.
books that you want to grow, do you want to find information about cacti, could be written maybe in Arizona would be a good spot, right? A lot of cacti in Arizona. It's very very beautiful out there. And if you're an author in Arizona, that's not going to help a guy in Nebraska. It's not going to help a guy in Maine. Maine, it's not like it's got to be something within your area. And sometimes finding those people can be impossible. And the reason for it is because a lot of us as growers have decided that we are maybe fed up a little bit with society, and we just want to back dial it and stay at home with our plants. I know I'm pretty guilty of that. I like to go out and have fun, but I really enjoy being at home with my plants. And I know probably a lot of your listeners would feel the exact same way. So
Yeah.
if you have so many growers that are at home with their plants, they're not really trying to find groups to go hang out in. They're not really trying to go out and make their own graft clubs. They're not trying to go out and go to cactus shows. They are at home, they are alone with their plants, and they are loving life. I get thousands of messages from some of these people, and I am the only person in the world that they talk to about their plants. And for me, that's a huge honor. And but
I
it's also
will.
no, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. I will
No, go ahead.
say that I have noticed here in PT, when you're called upon and whatnot, we have our cactus, section of PT, and there's been several times that, and we have other cacti people, that know a lot of stuff that aren't as responsive all the time,
Mhm.
and I think it's awesome that you will engage and help people out in PT. Love and appreciate that about you. But yeah, we have some people in PT also if you've got questions about stuff. But that is important. I think Jeff brings up a super, super important thing that not every environment is the same. So you kind of got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt. Yeah.
You really do. Yeah, you really do. And that's where I specifically talk about the power of observation alone. If you're alone with your plants will tell you what they need. They'll tell you exactly what they need. And if there's something growing on it, well then I go to the forums. I go and ask people and say, "Hey, what is this?" And they're like, "Oh, that's a F, Y, and Z, blah blah blah, or whatever." I'm like, "I can't enunciate that, but I'm going to go look it up and try to fight this problem." You know?
Yeah. Well, dude, I've got one more question for you before we close out.
Cool.
Um, and okay, uh, when you look at a cactus, 'cause you're really into this. You've been doing it for a long time. You love them. I can tell when you talk about it. You love it. This is your thing.
Yeah.
Um, when you look at a cactus, what do you see that the average person misses?
Well, that's a very yeah. You know what? I've been into here. I'll use Trichocereus as an example. If it wasn't for Graft Club, I probably would not be so hard into trichos as I am now. Um, Back when I started Graft Club, one of the biggest things that I was into was Astrophytum. Astrophytum is a very, very beautiful ornate cactus. Oftentimes, it doesn't have spines or needles. You can touch it, you can look at it. All the little dots are really pretty. And when it comes to observing these plants and how slow they grow and watching their flowers come out, like all of that stuff to me is extremely beautiful. And I love the differences that is portrayed in each plant. When it comes to tricho specifically, I remember deep diving into this. This is probably one of the newest ones because I'm what 3.5 years into tricho now. I think, yeah. Had Graph Club going for around 4 years, I think. So probably 3.5. And the guys that I started Graph Club with, they would bring pictures and videos of different trichos. And I'm like, oh, that's a San Pedro. Oh, that's a San Pedro. Oh, San Pedro again. Boring, right? And I was like, what are you guys even looking at? You're looking at the exact same cactus. Well, this went on and on and on for months. And how I got into tricho so hard was one day they pulled out a picture of a blue one. These guys changed my life because my favorite color is blue. I love blue. And I saw a blue tricho, and I'm pretty sure it was shark's blue. And I was like, wow, that is pretty. What is that? And I'm like, that's not San Pedro. What is that? And they're like, well, this is shark's blue, and it has a very blue glaucus that grows on it, and it's really, really pretty. The needles on or the spines on it are very gorgeous. The way that I'm like, yeah, that looks different than every other tricho I've ever seen before. And they're like, you like this one? Check this one out. And they started showing me all these different blue ones. And I don't think Althea was really a thing back then, or they didn't really know about it or whatever. Um, then I took that day and I started doing my thing. I started looking up blue cactus and started looking for blue trichos. And then started learning and understanding what Scopula is versus Burgessii and all these different types of Strikos, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, how did I not know anything about this before? And then I fall in hard with the rabbit holes, and I start searching and going and looking at them and starting seeing the different spine formations. I think when it comes to tricho growers, we love the different spine formations that come out. Some people like no spines, some people like big spines, but when it comes to like the colorful ones, and you look at Althea, Althea alone is just a very beautiful cactus. It's very blue, and most of them have like kind of a reddish brown spine, and some of them have like silver spines. Like there's a couple different formations of Althea out there that I've noticed. And then it comes to the notchiness. If you man, nothing beats a blue notchy cactus, if you ask me. Like I love how they look. I think it's so cool. And we're getting into maybe the monstrous side of things. And I fell hard for a TPM years ago before I even knew what TPM was called. I just found like a really bumpy cactus and I bought some and I started selling it and I didn't even know what the name was back then. And obviously by the time I figured out the name, everybody in the world already knew the name of Trichocereus pacani monstros. And I didn't know. Like I called it my clumpy bumpy cactus. I thought it was really, really cool. And man, if you could put blue onto a TPM, I would be in hog heaven. Like that right there for me is just it's so enlightening to sit around and look at the beautiful epidermis on a really nice TPM. And just even at night when you're sitting around having a beer, relaxing from the day, and just looking at the lights shining on a beautiful TPM, man, nothing beats that. It's just a gorgeous cactus, and that's the type of thing that I'm kind of always hunting for or looking for. And then when I get it, to be able to grow it to that level of expectation and beauty, for me, that's a really honorable thing. And I think that that's what all of us are kind of shooting for when we see that stuff. We want to re implement that into our gardens. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. That's awesome. Super cool. A lot of good information and good stuff from you. Um, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. I'm sure everybody here listening and then whoever listens to the podcast will appreciate it as well. Plugs. Let's hear. What do you got anything you want to plug? Maybe your Instagram, if you have a site or something.
Yeah. If you want to come, I'm Cactus Jeff on everything. Cactus Jeff 77 on everything. I'm on Instagram. I mean, Facebook, I'm Jeff Hansen. They keep switching that back and forth. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Lemonade, Threads, and YouTube. And I think that when it comes to buying cactus for me, all you gotta do is take a screenshot of my cacti in any of my formats and come over to Facebook Messenger or Instagram or TikTok and just send me a picture and say, hey, how much? Simple. And we talk about price and shipping, and I package up and ship out. Pack and ship is a really big deal for my business. I'd say 95% of all my sales are shipped out. But one of the best things, and you know this, one of the best things coming over to my house and buying a cactus is just coming over, hanging out, and nerding out, and spending an hour or three or whatever, and just talking about cactus. That's one of the favorite parts of my day, and just being able to share my garden in person with people. It's such an honor, and I have
Yeah.
everybody that comes over here. It's so cool just to watch their faces and their eyes jump to all the different types of rare cacti that I collect. It's just it's a real honor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, dude, thanks again. Super, super appreciate you. And thank you guys for joining us in the audience and kicking in questions. Anybody listening to the podcast through Spotify or what have you, feel free to join us next time on our next one. We set up schedules. We put up schedules in the Platypus Technical Discord server. Come join us in there. And till next time, thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you, Jeff. You have a good one, brother.
Hey man, rock and roll. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.